Previously in our story, everything seemed under control until chaos struck. Fatty unlocked gorilla strength, saving the team from a horde of goblins, but just when it looked like he'd be crushed, Seo-jun pulled him back from death itself. Then came Moon, awakening his terrifying power, teleporting and striking down enemies like a phantom. But the real shock, a monstrous bear devouring goblins under the moonlight only to transform into Yanju, a powerful survivor within a rank ability. Her plea to Seo-jun revealed something even darker. Resurrection might actually be possible. With new allies, overwhelming powers, and a rescue mission ahead, what happens next will change everything. And if you don't want to miss the full videos of the latest parts, check the links in the description right now. Under the full moon's light, he asks if they know why he called them there. Startled, neither is certain, though both seem to have an idea. Toji hesitates, admitting he isn't sure, while Moon asks if it's about the powers they recently awakened. Jun smirks and confirms, saying it's indeed about their powers. He explains that both have awakened new abilities, leaving them stunned by his insight. Jun reveals that Moon's ability is teleportation, exciting Moon, who can't wait to master it. As for Toji, his ability is called Knight of Steel, which sparks his curiosity. Jun's tone shifts to seriousness as he emphasizes the importance of understanding their abilities before the mission. He opens the system screen to analyze their progress and issues them a challenge: demonstrate their newly awakened abilities within 1 hour. The reward is enhanced strength, while failure means sleeping in the corridor. The system confirms the mission parameters, intriguing Jun with these team-oriented challenges. Unable to contain himself, Toji blurts out in excitement, asking if it's really true that he awakened a new ability. Jun nods, confirming it. Toji's excitement surges, and he eagerly asks about the Knight of Steel. Jun explains that it allows him to summon a steel suit of armor and a halberd. Toji, still accustomed to his baseball bat, is full of questions, but before he can continue, a sudden blue light appears beside him. Moon's teleportation has activated. In an instant, Moon vanishes, leaving Toji stunned at how quickly he picked up the ability. For a few moments, Jun and Toji exchange wide-eyed glances, both speechless. Suddenly, Moon reappears in the corridor, landing a little unsteadily. Looking down at his hands, his face lights up with excitement as he marvels at his newfound power. Clenching his fist, he declared with determination, "With this power, rescuing my grandmother will be a breeze." The system immediately notified Seo-jun that Moon's confidence had risen, along with his loyalty. Overcome with gratitude, Moon bowed deeply to Jun, thanking him sincerely for everything he had done. The gesture caught Jun off guard, leaving him momentarily surprised. After regaining his composure, Jun urged Moon to pause and carefully evaluate the situation. "Even though you managed to use your powers," Jun explained, "going to your grandmother's house right now is impossible." Moon, confused, asked why that was the case. Patiently, Jun clarified that there was no guarantee Moon could fully control his ability yet. It may have worked once, but that didn't mean it would always succeed. "It's possible you just got lucky," Jun added, causing Moon to lower his head in disappointment at the realization that rescuing his grandmother would have to wait. Seeing his discouragement, Jun reassured him. "For now, we'll figure out the maximum range of your teleportation and whether there are any penalties for using it multiple times." Moon nodded silently in agreement. As their discussion continued, something unusual caught their attention down the corridor. Turning to investigate, they spotted a knight clad in gleaming steel armor, wielding a massive halberd. Toji's eyes widened in awe as he realized the sheer strength of his newfound power. Ecstatic, he marveled at how perfectly the weapon suited him. The system then notified Jun that Toji's confidence and loyalty had also increased. While Toji celebrated, testing the weight of the halberd with broad swings, Jun called Moon over. Pointing toward a nearby building, he asked if Moon could attempt teleporting to it. Moon studied the target carefully, gauging the distance and calculating the risk. After a pause, he turned to his leader and admitted, I'm not sure I can make it, but I'll try. The system immediately issued a new mission: teleport to the rooftop of Building 113 within 3 minutes. The reward would be an upgrade to Moon's teleportation ability, while the penalty for failure was having to sleep outside. Focusing intently, Moon positioned his hands in a stance reminiscent of a Kamehameha, channeling his energy for the jump. In the background, Toji cheered enthusiastically, shouting encouragements. Moon steadied his thoughts, gathered his energy, and opened his eyes. In that instant, he vanished in a burst of brilliant blue light. The force of the teleportation was so strong that Toji instinctively shielded himself from the shockwave. Moments later, Moon reappeared on the rooftop, landing in a dramatic superhero pose. Relief washed over him as he realized the teleportation had succeeded. Waving to his friends across the distance, he shouted that everything had gone as planned. The system notified June, confirming the mission's success. Seojin exhaled deeply, smiling as he praised Moon for his impressive mastery. Moon basked in the moment, still waving happily. But then, without warning, his body faltered. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed unconscious on the rooftop, leaving him completely vulnerable. Both June and Toji froze in shock, their excitement replaced by sudden concern. Everything had been going so well until it hadn't. Acting quickly, June summoned a servant with his ability, retrieving Moon's unconscious body and bringing him back to the corridor. They laid him gently on one of the beds to rest. "Is he going to be okay?" Toji asked nervously. Studying the system's readout, June reassured him. "Yes, he's just unconscious. The teleportation drained too much energy from him. With enough rest, he'll recover." The system confirmed that Moon was healthy and in a deep sleep. "This probably happened because he's not used to using the ability yet," June added. Relieved, Toji let out a sigh and admitted he was glad to hear it. Without missing a beat, June turned his attention to Toji. "Now it's your turn," he said, surprising him with the sudden declaration. "Wait, my turn?" Toji asked, caught off guard. The system displayed his mission: perform 100 push-ups and 100 squats while wearing the steel armor. The time limit was 10 minutes. The reward would be increased strength, while the penalty for failure was sleeping outside. Without hesitation, Toji dropped into position and began his push-ups. Clad in heavy steel armor, every movement Toji made required immense effort. Sweat streamed down his face, dripping onto the floor as he pushed himself beyond his limits. Determined, he powered through the squats, completing the second half of the mission with gritted teeth and unshakable resolve. When he finally finished, Toji stood tall, exhausted but victorious, shouting, "Mission accomplished! I did it!" The system instantly confirmed his success, notifying Jun that Kongdaku, Toji, had cleared the mission. Breathing heavily, Toji leaned against the wall to catch his breath, while Jun observed him, deeply impressed. With such athleticism and resilience, it was no wonder Toji possessed extraordinary endurance. Suddenly, the system displayed something new and unfamiliar message. Jun's eyes narrowed as he muttered, "What's this?" studying the strange notification. Meanwhile, Toji asked, "Is that really all for the mission?" Jun nodded with a warm smile. "Yes. Great job. You can rest now." When the calculations finished, the system revealed a slight increase in Toji's strength. Grateful, Toji turned to Jun. "Thanks for taking the time to help us. I really appreciate it." Jun, still surprised by the unexpected notification, watched as Toji felt the change in his body. A fresh energy radiated from him. Clenching his fists, Toji smiled confidently. This reward changes everything. The next day, deep in a dark alley of Busausen, Han screamed desperately for everyone to run. The group scattered in panic as a vicious horde of goblins gave chase. But Toji didn't flee. He stopped, his fury blazing in his eyes, and turned to face them. Assessing the danger, he chose to act. The goblins, focused on their prey, were suddenly blinded by a brilliant light. As their vision cleared, they saw a towering figure in steel armor wielding a massive halberd. Without hesitation, Toji charged forward, impaling the nearest goblin in a single, devastating strike. He followed with a storm of diagonal slashes, cutting down goblins in rapid succession. Yet, despite the slaughter, the goblins pressed on, fueled by rage. Then, cunningly, they shifted their attack, bypassing Toji to target the vulnerable backline. In that instant, arrows rained down, piercing goblin skulls one after another. Toji spun around to see Moon with his bow drawn. "Don't worry," Moon called confidently. "I'll take care of the ones that slip past. Focus on what's in front of you." Gripping his halberd tighter, Toji turned back to the goblins, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Got it." His unwavering focus made the goblins hesitate. Fear spread through their ranks, and one by one, they began retreating. But before they could escape, a massive shadow emerged, a bare girl, her glowing red eyes piercing through the chaos. This was her grand entrance, ambushing the retreating goblins. Terrified, the goblins collapsed in despair, cursed by their own misdeeds. The group showed no mercy. Moon's arrows struck true, Toji's halberd crushed through bodies, and the bare girl's claws tore goblins apart. One by one, the monsters fell. Seizing the moment, Han shouted to Moon, "Now's your chance. Go!" Without hesitation, Moon sprinted toward his grandmother's house. "Thank you, Han," he called back, grateful for the opening his comrades had given him. At that moment, the system notified Seo Jun that Citizen Moon had completed his mission. A pop-up appeared, announcing it was evaluating Moon's completed tasks. Meanwhile, back in his room, Seo Jun sat with his Ultimate Eyes ability active, slurping on cup noodles as he watched the system's display. The evaluation finished quickly, awarding him a staggering 1,329,661 directly deposited into his shut-in wallet. Jun froze mid-bite, stunned by the sheer amount. This time, the reward wasn't stats or energy, it was actual money. Returning to his noodles, he reflected. When Toji finished his mission, the reward had been strength. Now, the system seemed to randomize the rewards. It makes sense, Jun thought. The harder the missions, the greater the rewards. The system chimed again, confirming Moon had cleared all his available missions for the day. It instantly began evaluating his rewards. Jun leaned back, still savoring his noodles, grinning as he muttered, "All right, let's see what it gives this time." The screen lit up with a shocking announcement: Jun had hit the jackpot. For clarity, the system explained, a jackpot is the maximum prize accumulated in games of chance like slot machines or lotteries. Jun froze in disbelief. Paralyzed with anticipation, he stared at the glowing notification, waiting to see what reward such a jackpot could possibly bring. Cup noodles stuck in his throat, his eyes locked on the screen, unable to process the enormity of what was about to unfold. The system displayed the reward, a single skill point, granted as part of the jackpot. Upon reading the notification, Seo Jun's lips curled into a satisfied smile. This was perfect, he could now decide exactly where to allocate the point. Meanwhile, back on the streets, Moon sprinted toward his grandmother's house with such incredible speed that a faint blue aura streamed behind him. As he drew closer, exhaustion began to weigh on him, sweat dripping from his forehead. His chest tightened with anxiety. What if something had happened to her? At last, the house came into view. It was a small, simple home, completely unprotected from monster attacks. No barriers, no defenses, just a fragile structure standing vulnerable in the chaos. Moon didn't hesitate. He rushed to the door, shoving it open, a deep fear clawing at his chest. Frantically, he darted through the rooms, calling out, "Grandma, where are you?" Finally, he reached the bedroom. His eyes widened in shock. There she was lying on a futon mattress, peacefully asleep, far calmer than he ever imagined she would be. Cautiously, he approached and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Grandma," he whispered, shaking her lightly, desperate for a response. Slowly, her eyelids fluttered open. Her faint, drowsy voice broke the silence. "Who is there?" She reached out with frail fingers, brushing against his hand. "Moon, is that you?" At that moment, tears welled in his eyes. His chest tightened with overwhelming relief, and his vision blurred. He sobbed uncontrollably, trembling as the weight of fear melted away. Unable to restrain himself, he wrapped his arms around her in a desperate embrace, whispering apologies between sobs. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry it took me so long to come back for you." Despite his tears, the old woman smiled kindly and patted his back. "You're such a brave and kind boy, Moon. I knew you would come for me." At that exact moment, a system notification appeared before Seo Jun. Moon's loyalty had reached 100. He was now officially registered as a vassal, and the number of available vassal slots had increased. Jun squinted at the message, puzzled. "Huh? What's this?" Apparently, achieving a certain level of trust unlocked additional vassal slots. The system then displayed his current roster. Choi Hangjin, also known as Fatty, level 20. Moon, level 30. Kong Daku, also known as Toji, level 25. Scratching his chin, Jun blinked in surprise. "Wait, I can level them up too." Curious, he tapped the plus sign next to Moon's name. A new notification appeared. Insufficient funds to level up. Another window followed, listing the requirement, 100 million to upgrade Vassal Moon. Jun's jaw nearly hit the floor. His fists clenched tightly. 100 million? That's insane, just for one vassal. Frustrated, he rubbed his temples, then sighed, running a hand through his hair before lightly punching the table. "I'm sorry, Moon. I'll make it up to you by giving you missions every single day." Just then, a noise broke his thoughts. The elevator was moving. His senses sharpened instantly, his brow furrowing. Who the hell could that be? My comrades are still out fighting goblins. Narrowing his eyes, he activated Ultimate Eyes. His pupils darkened as his vision expanded, scanning the entire building. Two people stood outside one of the apartment doors, a man and a woman. The man carried a box on his shoulder while the woman knocked, asking if anyone was inside. Something felt off. Their expressions weren't exactly friendly, and the dark circles under their eyes suggested exhaustion or something more sinister. Jun immediately recognized the apartment. Inside was Fatty's wife. From the other side of the door, she hesitated. Hearing the voices, she cautiously called out, "Who is it?" Believing the situation urgent, she made a quick decision and opened the door. Standing before her was a young woman who greeted her with a bright smile. "Hello, I'm Kim Dabin," she said cheerfully, before gesturing toward the man beside her. "And this is my younger brother, Kim Miho. We live in Unit 1701. Curious, Fatty's wife asked what brought them there. The girl let out a weary sigh, explaining that she had come because she desperately needed help. Confused, Fatty's wife wondered what kind of help she meant until, with a sudden burst of desperation, the girl practically shouted, "Would it be possible for you to let me take a shower?" Fatty's wife froze, completely caught off guard. Her jaw dropped. Of all the things she expected to hear, this was the very last. Still trying to process it, she blinked in disbelief and asked if she had heard correctly. "Did you really just ask to take a shower? And that's all you need?" The girl nodded eagerly. "Yes, that's all. I just want a shower." Relieved that the request was nothing complicated, Fatty's wife let out a small chuckle and gestured for them to come inside. "Well, that's easy enough. Come in." The two entered, expressing their gratitude. The man, still carrying a box on his shoulder, thanked her as well before asking where he should set it down. Curious, Fatty's wife asked what was inside. As he placed it on the floor, the girl, still full of gratitude, explained that it was just canned food and miscellaneous supplies. The man opened the box, revealing a variety of canned goods, exactly as she had said. Seeing this, Fatty's wife smiled warmly and thanked them, assuring them that they didn't need to go through all that trouble. The girl waved it off. It's nothing, really? If you think about it, I just walked into a stranger's home and made a pretty strange request. Just as she finished speaking, something caught her eye. Turning her head slightly, her gaze landed on the bows neatly lined against the wall beside Toji's baseball bat. Unable to contain her curiosity, she asked, "Do these bows and that bat belong to the owner of this apartment?" The question took Fatty's wife by surprise. After a short pause, she shook her head. "No, actually, they don't belong to the apartment's owner. The real owners live in another unit, but, well, it's complicated to explain." The girl nodded in understanding. "I see." Watching quietly, Seo Jun deactivated his ability, noting to himself that they didn't seem like bad people. His gaze shifted toward the window, and he muttered under his breath, "I'll go check it out later." After a moment's thought, he added, "I also need to talk to them. Maybe they'd be willing to help rescue survivors in the nearby apartments." Before he could think further, a sudden system notification appeared before his eyes. "You have successfully hunted a red tiger." A second notification followed immediately. "You have gained a large amount of XP." Then another, 39,783. 21 has been deposited into the ultimate shut-in's wallet. And finally, one more, your skill level has increased. You have acquired a new ability. Jun stared at the series of notifications, his eyes widening in shock. What? What just happened out there? He hadn't been watching for long. How could so much change in such a short span? Forcing himself to reactivate Ultimate Eyes, he pushed his ability to the limit despite the strain. Outside, the battlefield was anything but calm. Han, the archer, and the man with glasses were all lightly wounded. Lying motionless before them was the massive corpse of the red tiger, and beside it, the werebear was badly injured, struggling to move. The rest of the group stood frozen, uncertain of what to do next. Jun observed silently, but a wave of unease swept over him. His stomach twisted, and his chest tightened as dread clawed at him. What the hell just happened? Suddenly, searing pain ripped through his body. His muscles spasmed, cold sweat poured down his face, and an invisible weight crushed his chest. He groaned in agony, barely able to stay upright. Another system notification appeared. You have discovered individuals eligible to receive citizenship. Through the pain, Jun struggled to process the message. There are still people who aren't citizens yet. His breath was ragged, but he forced himself to speak. System, grant them citizenship. Instantly, another message appeared. A list of names flashed across the screen. Citizenship has been granted. Then another alert followed. You have officially reached 50 citizens. A second message came immediately after. The amount of XP and money citizens can earn has increased by 100%. But the system wasn't done yet. A final notification appeared before his eyes, one that caught him completely off guard. As the number of citizens has reached a specific threshold, all citizens have unlocked a new ability, Power of Trust. Jun stared at the words, his mind racing. Power of Trust. What does that even mean? Even as confusion lingers in his mind, Jun's thoughts drift back to the battlefield. His jaw tightens. Did anyone get seriously hurt? On the streets, Moon staggers forward, slightly wounded and struggling for breath as he carries his grandmother on his back. The others are battered as well, running desperately while covering Toji, who bears the injured werebear woman in his arms. Seeing this, Jun quickly realizes the situation outside is far worse than he imagined, and of all people to be critically wounded, it had to be the werebear. As the group pushes forward, a horde of goblins suddenly blocks their path. Immediately, the rearguard lets loose a volley of arrows, thinning the swarm and clearing the way. The archer, eyes fixed ahead, can't help but notice the man with glasses fire an impossibly precise shot. How the hell did you pull that off with just one arrow? She blurts out, wide-eyed. The man looks just as bewildered. I honestly have no idea. As they keep moving, something strange begins to dawn on them. For some reason, my body feels lighter, the archer mutters. Han, running beside her, nods in agreement. Yeah, I just realized I'm not even out of breath anymore. Back with Jun, the system finally offers an explanation. Power of Trust, a passive ability that increases all stats by X%, where X equals the trust level of each citizen. Jun freezes, staring at the message in disbelief. This skill didn't even exist before. How the hell is it this strong? Bennett hits him. Every member of his group has at least 50 trust points or more. That means their stamina, reflexes, strength, everything has naturally risen by 50%. At that moment, Moon's expression shifts as though he's realized something as well. A hunch tells him this sudden boost must be one of Jun's new powers. Then, another system message arrives. Both girls have surpassed 30 loyalty points. They are now eligible to be registered as vassals. Without hesitation, Kim commands the system to register them. The instant it happens, the two women freeze in place, their bodies tingling as raw power floods through them. The system follows up with an update. Kim Gaeng level 20, skill acquired piercing. Yu Hai Rin level 25, skill awakened poisonous mist. Brimming with newfound strength, the two women turn back to face the goblins. The archer steadies her bow, draws, and releases. Her shot, once always a flawless headshot, now behaves differently. The arrow doesn't stop at a single goblin, it ricochets, tearing through several at once. What just happened? She gasps, furrowing her brows. The system quickly responds. Piercing a tier C skill, uses mental energy to fire penetrating arrows. Jun watches with folded arms, analyzing the information. Now that he understands the ability, he immediately issues a command. Mission created. The archer must eliminate 10 goblins using piercing within 10 minutes. Reward, increased proficiency. Penalty for failure, fatigue. While processing this, his attention shifts to the other ability, Poisonous Mist. Unlike piercing, this one is far more dangerous. Though only a B rank skill, using it carelessly could endanger the entire team. Jun exhales sharply. I'll deal with it later when the time comes. Moments later, another system alert arrives. The mission is complete. 10 goblins eliminated. But then comes a disappointment. Maximum missions for the day reached. Jun sighs. The rewards weren't particularly impressive this time. Still, with the battle outside finally calming, he decides to focus on the citizens in the lower floors. Activating Ultimate Eyes, he scans the corridors. His gaze locks on a man walking calmly through the halls, hands tucked in his pockets, heading toward the bathroom. He's collecting water. Jun realizes, smart. He has good instincts gathering supplies before they run out. Shifting his vision elsewhere, he spots a man and woman sitting together, preparing to eat. Observing them for a moment, Jun notes something important. They're already capable of securing food and water on their own. But in another corner of the building, something unexpected catches his eye. A woman lies motionless on the floor inside a room. Without hesitation, Jun bolts toward her as the system flashes an update. Kim De-young, Trust Level 18. Ability, Healing Awakened. Jun's heartbeat pounds in his chest. Healing. His eyes flicker between the system message and the unconscious woman. The description is clear: she can heal wounds, the first healer they've found, and they desperately need her. Urgency surges through him. He has to help her. Without stopping to think, Jun sprints down the hall, determined to reach her no matter what. He arrives at the door of the room where she collapsed, breathing hard from the run but quickly regaining his composure. Reaching for the knob, he tries to turn it slowly, hoping for an easy entry. But the handle refuses to budge. The door is locked from the inside. His expression hardened, frustration weighing on him. He takes a step back, shoulders slumping slightly as he realizes he has no way in. Just as he begins to consider another option, The system interrupts him with a new notification. Jun's eyes widen. A skill newly acquired right at this crucial moment. Invisible Hand, Level 1. The description says it allows him to summon and control an unseen hand at will. He clenches his fists, determination flaring within him. The timing is absurd, yet undeniable. Silently, he thanks whatever force granted him this power. Closing his eyes, he focuses entirely on the locked door, willing it to yield. He envisions himself breaking the lock, commanding it to give way. When his eyes open again, his vision has taken form. A bolt cutter, forged entirely from the strange energy he has come to rely on, floats before him. Without hesitation, he grips the tool. Its cold weight feels solid in his hands, confirming it is real. Positioning it against the lock, he applies pressure. A sharp snap echoes through the hallway as the lock breaks cleanly. With one swift motion, Jun pushes the door open and rushes inside. The dimly lit room reveals the woman lying still on the floor. Up close, her eerie stillness chills him. Kneeling beside her, Jun gently shakes her shoulder, his voice firm yet controlled as he urges her to wake up. There's no response. Unease coils inside him. He scans her condition, searching for injuries, but what he finds instead makes his stomach sink. Her skin is pale, her lips cracked and dry. Severe dehydration. His mind races. Dehydration at this level is life-threatening. She needs help immediately. His eyes dart around the room, desperate for anything that might stabilize her. Then he sees it: water. The discovery halts him in confusion. Water is present, yet she is still in this state. The contradiction unsettles him, sending a shiver down his spine. But there's no time to dwell on mysteries. Right now, saving her is all that matters. Forcing himself to stay focused, he calls up the system interface. A single thought drives him. There's one chance, one way this might work. Jun quickly assigns her a mission, a simple, vital task. The mission objective: breathe. The reward: immediate recovery from dehydration. The system processes the command, deducting 10,001 as the activation cost. Almost instantly, a soft blue aura envelops the woman's body. Jun watches closely, his pulse racing as the energy courses through her. Then, faint sounds escape her lips, a weak, breathy murmur, but proof that she is stirring. Relief floods through him. It worked. Slowly, her eyelids flutter open, her gaze hazy and unfocused. A blurred figure hovers before her, his voice gentle as he asks if she is awake. Her mind struggles to catch up, her voice frail and confused as she demands to know who he is and why he is in her room. Straightening, Jun meets her eyes and introduces himself, explaining that he lives in the unit above hers. She blinks, her exhaustion clouding her comprehension. Still lying on the floor, she presses again, asking how he entered. Jun does not hesitate. He tells her the truth that he saw she was unwell and forced his way in by breaking her door. Silence follows, heavy and uncomfortable. Then, her breath catches. Tears well up and spill down her cheeks without warning. She doesn't speak, only cries, as though the weight of everything she had endured has finally collapsed upon her. Her hands rise to hide her face, shoulders trembling as she struggles to contain herself. Jun watches closely, sensing that her reaction comes from something far deeper than mere exhaustion. Taking a breath, he calls her name Kim De-young, his tone both firm and gentle. Slowly, she pushes herself up from the floor, still shaken. He apologizes for his intrusion, for barging into her life so suddenly, but insists he needs her help. His urgency makes her pause, even as distress lingers in her tear-filled eyes. Her lips, cracked from dehydration, part slightly as she listens. Jun wastes no time. He explains that one of his allies is severely injured. The words hang in the air as De-young turns toward him, struggling to process what he just said. Silence stretches between them. Her mind races. His ally, someone gravely hurt. Why is he telling her this? Why her? Fear stirs in her chest. He wants her to save someone, but she doesn't even know him. Her hands tremble as they rest in her lap. The request feels absurd, impossible. He has placed his trust in the wrong person. Then, a chilling thought strikes her. How does he know she's a nurse? She never told him, and no one in this building should know. Unease washes over her. Yet despite her doubts, his words carry no malice, his gaze no ill intent. Something about his plea feels genuine. Though hesitant, she makes her decision. She must see for herself. Turning fully to face him, suspicion still in her eyes, she swallows her fear and agrees to help. Her voice is weak, but steady as she asks where he intends to take her. Instead of answering, June opens the system interface, his fingers moving quickly across the translucent screen. He assigns her a mission: heal the wounded werebear using her magic within 1 hour. The reward promises improvement, and to his relief, there is no penalty. Determination flashes in his eyes. He must save the werebear, no matter what. He turns back to Di-young, telling her to rest for now. He will personally bring the injured to her. He urges her to find something to ease her dehydration. But before she can fully absorb his words, something utterly impossible happens. From thin air, oranges begin to materialize, bright and vivid, falling before her eyes. Di-young gasps, her breath catching as several fruits tumble to the floor. For a long moment, she simply stares, stunned into silence. Then, snapping back, she raises a trembling hand and points at the impossible sight in front of her. "What is this?" Her voice trembles as she demands an answer. Jun, realizing how bizarre this must seem to her, quickly apologizes. But Di-young isn't satisfied. Her heartbeat pounds in her ears as she watches more oranges drop into existence. Where are these coming from? How is this happening? What kind of person is this man? Before she can demand further explanations, Jun simply turns his back to her. A slight smirk plays on his lips as he tells her he'll explain everything later, once things have calmed down. With that, he walks away, leaving her kneeling on the floor in disbelief. He exits the room with a final request. He reminds her that she is still weak, that her body needs to recover, and he insists she prioritize her own rest. As soon as Jun is gone, Di-young lowers her gaze to the scattered oranges. Slowly, she reaches out and picks one up. The texture, the weight, the coolness against her fingertips, it all feels real. She squeezes the fruit gently, expecting it to vanish like an illusion, but it remains solid in her grasp. A shiver runs down her spine. "What is this?" she mutters to herself, still overwhelmed and wondering if she's dreaming. Never in her life has she seen anything like this. Meanwhile, Jun wastes no time. He rushes back to his shut-in apartment, moving with quick, determined strides. His mind is already focused on helping his allies outside as fast as possible. The system chimes with a notification. The healer's trust level has increased. He stops for a moment, narrowing his eyes at the message. She hadn't trusted him before, that much was obvious, but now it seems her perception of him has changed, even if only slightly. Still, it isn't enough for him to let his guard down. Trust takes time, and honestly, he can't blame her. If someone broke into his home out of nowhere, he wouldn't trust them either. Shaking his head, he steps onto the balcony, his gaze drifting downward. His thoughts remain heavy, but then something makes his entire body freeze. His blood runs cold. A massive, ferocious red tiger is charging through the streets, its powerful limbs propelling it forward with terrifying speed, and it's chasing his allies. Jun's breath catches as he sees them below, running for their lives. Desperation is written across their movements as they scramble to escape, but the monstrous beast closes in, its deadly fangs gleaming under the dim light. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, another red tiger appears. A second ferocious beast, separate from the one that had already fought the werebear woman and left her gravely wounded. Down below, chaos unfolds. The massive red tiger prowls menacingly, striking fear into the hearts of the remaining group members, who are now running desperately, not daring to look back. Fear grips them entirely, their survival instincts pushing them forward. Amidst the frantic escape, Hyern, the girl who had received the power of poison, missteps. Her foot twists unnaturally, pain exploding through her leg as she collapses onto the hard ground. A sharp, involuntary cry of agony escapes her throat. Both the archer woman and Han immediately stop in their tracks, their faces contorted with panic. Their eyes dart back to her, calling out her name in desperation. Gritting her teeth, Hyern struggles to push herself up, trying to fight through the pain. But her body is beyond exhaustion. Her limbs are heavy, refusing to obey. No matter how much she wills herself to move, she can't. The archer's voice rings out, a raw scream of distress. The enormous red tiger is already preparing to strike, its muscles coiled, eyes locked onto Hyern like a predator savoring helpless prey. It lunges just as she finally staggers back to her feet, still unaware of how close the beast truly is. Her mind is occupied by something else, perhaps a last-ditch plan, perhaps sheer disbelief at her predicament. Then, at last, she turns her head. In that instant, she understands. The beast is right there. The realization crashes into her like a tidal wave, swallowing her whole. A cruel truth settled into her bones. There was no escape. For a brief, soul-crushing moment, she stopped resisting. The fight drained from her eyes, and she surrendered to the inevitable. She stood still, bracing for the end, waiting for the red tiger's jaws to clamp down and rip her apart. And then, in a sudden flash of light and violet smoke, she was gone. The tiger's gaping maw snapped shut on empty air. A growl rumbled deep in its throat, confusion flickering through its burning eyes. It didn't understand what had just happened. A heartbeat ago, its prey had been right there and now vanished. The frustration of the failed kill sent the beast into a deeper fury. At the same moment, Hyern reappeared, disoriented, drenched in sweat, her breath ragged and uneven. Her mind reeled as she tried to comprehend what had just occurred. Had she died? Was this the afterlife? Pain surged through her limbs, sharp and unrelenting, reminding her that she was still very much alive. That was when she saw him. Jay. He was standing there watching her closely. It had been too close. A fraction of a second later, and she wouldn't have survived. The weight of that realization pressed down on him. Hin, still trembling, looked up at him, but no words came. She was too exhausted, too overwhelmed to speak. Meanwhile, outside, the others were still running for their lives. Jun took a deep breath, his mind racing. At the very least, he had bought them some time. One less person in immediate danger meant the group below had a slightly better chance of escaping. Then his system screen flashed with a new notification. He had discovered individuals who met the criteria to be granted citizenship. The system prompted him, did he wish to approve their citizenship? Before he could process this, another sudden movement caught his eye. Moon appeared using his teleportation ability to warp into the apartment, carrying his grandmother in his arms. As soon as he landed, he turned to June. His expression frantic, his breathing unsteady, but his grip on the elderly woman remained firm as he pleaded for June to take care of her. Jun glanced at Moon, then at the frail woman in his arms. The concern in Moon's eyes was unmistakable, but Jun's mind was already occupied with something far more urgent. Raising a hand, he told Moon to wait. There was a bigger problem right now. Moon parted his lips, ready to argue, ready to demand an explanation. But then he looked at Jun's face, at the seriousness in his expression, and he understood. Whatever Jun was dealing with, it was far worse than he had realized. Without another word, Moon nodded. He could tell that at this moment his grandmother was not the priority. Down below, the relentless red tiger was still in pursuit, refusing to let up. It chased the remaining group members without mercy, its predatory instincts fully awakened. Jun clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus. He needed to act. Activating his new ability Invisible Hand, he made a decision. That tiger needed to die, and he had to find a way to kill it. Down in the streets, the archer, Han, and Tojai, who was still carrying the injured werebear, kept running. But no matter how hard they pushed themselves, the red tiger was catching up. Han risked a glance over his shoulder, his stomach twisting with dread. If this continued, they were all going to be devoured. He had to do something. Instinct took over. Without a second thought, Han skidded to a stop, planting his foot firmly on the ground. His fingers tightened around one of his baseballs. His heart pounded in his chest as he raised his arm, channeling everything he had into one throw. A faint blue glow began to radiate around him, intensifying with each passing second. He poured everything into it. Then he hurled the ball with all the force he could muster. It soared through the air, cutting through the night like a bullet. For a moment, hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, it would hit. But in the blink of an eye, the tiger dodged. The ball shot past it, colliding uselessly with the ground. A low, guttural growl rumbled through the air. Then the red tiger threw back its head and roared, a deafening sound that reverberated through the city streets, a declaration of its dominance. The archer's voice rang out in terror as she screamed for Han, begging him to run. But it was too late. The red tiger, eyes gleaming with lethal intent, lunged at him, teeth bared, claws outstretched. Han gritted his teeth, knowing he was out of time. There was nothing he could do to stop it. But there was one thing he could still do, a single desperate choice. He turned his head and shouted for his friends to keep running. Then, without hesitation, he broke into a full sprint in the opposite direction. If he could lead the tiger away, even if it cost him his life, then at least the others might make it out alive. His chest heaved, his legs burned. Every step was fueled by sheer willpower. But deep down he knew this could be the end for him. And still, he ran. As he approached a parking lot, hoping against all odds that goblins or some other kind of monster would appear to distract the red tiger, Han continued with all the strength he had left. But the relentless beast was far too close. It was undeniable now this was truly the end for him. While sprinting, he risked a glance over his shoulder. His breath caught in his throat as he saw the enormous, glistening fangs of the red tiger, massive, sharp, and deadly. They were a testament to the inevitable doom awaiting him. At that moment, his gaze locked with the tiger's, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. This was it. There was no escape. His fate was sealed. Just when all hope seemed lost, when every fiber of his being prepared to accept his tragic demise, something unexpected happened. A strange, pulsating purple force suddenly materialized and coiled tightly around the red tiger's neck. It appeared out of nowhere, wrapping around the beast with impossible speed and intensity. In an instant, the force pulled downward with overwhelming strength, slamming the tiger's head into the ground. The impact was so powerful the pavement beneath them cracked and shattered, debris flying in every direction. The tiger let out a guttural snarl, struggling against the mysterious force. Its powerful limbs clawed at the ground, trying to regain stability, but the unseen energy was relentless. Slowly, its paws lifted off the ground, its body suspended as if an invisible hand were hoisting it up. The purple force constricted tighter around the tiger's throat, squeezing the life out of it. This wasn't a natural occurrence. This was someone's doing. And Han, frozen in shock, knew exactly whose work it was. Without doubt, this was Jun's power. Moments later, the archer woman and the bespectacled man arrived, their breaths ragged from the exhausting chase. They had rushed there, fearing for Han's safety, but what they found left them speechless. Their eyes widened as they saw the red tiger writhing in agony, its body dangling helplessly under the crushing grip of the mysterious force. As the archer took in the scene, a system screen suddenly appeared before her, glowing softly in the dim light. She hesitated briefly, then focused on the text. Her expression shifted instantly. Shock flashed across her face before she took a deep breath, regaining composure. With newfound calm, she turned to her companions and stepped forward. High above, Jun observed everything with sharp, calculating eyes. There was no need for him to intervene further. He had already done what was necessary. Now, as long as Gaang, the archer, landed the final blow, he would receive 4 times the loot. Below, the red tiger, still trapped and gasping for air, thrashed desperately in a futile attempt to escape. But its fate was sealed. The archer, understanding the significance of the moment, prepared her most crucial shot yet. The tiger's fiery gaze turned to her, desperation clear in its glowing eyes. It pleaded for mercy, seeking even the faintest hope of survival. But the woman before it held no sympathy. Her expression was one of cold resolve. Mercy was not an option. Not for this wretched beast. She pulled back her bowstring, channeling an intense blue aura into her arrow. The pressure from the charged shot was immense, making the very air tremble. With a swift, decisive motion, she released. A powerful gust of wind exploded outward as the arrow soared, cutting through the night like a spear of vengeance. The instant it struck, a system notification flashed before Jun's eyes. You have successfully hunted a level 28 red tiger. You have gained a significant amount of experience points. 60,2311, 7,761 has been deposited into your shut-in wallet. As the tiger's body collapsed lifelessly to the ground, another notification appeared, highlighting the group's growing dynamics. Team trust and loyalty levels have increased. Shortly after, another notification followed. Han's loyalty level has exceeded 30. He now meets the requirements to be registered as a vassal. A satisfied smile spread across Jun's lips. Everything had gone exactly as planned. He nodded to himself and selected the prompt to accept Han's registration. Moments later, the scene shifted to another part of the building where someone was being healed. It was the healer, the woman who had previously collapsed in exhaustion within one of the rooms. Now fully conscious, she focused her energy, her hands glowing faintly as she tended to the wounded. The injuries of the others faded rapidly under her care, not even leaving scars behind. The first person she prioritized was the werebear woman, whose body had suffered severe damage during the brutal encounter with the red tiger. Jun, watching from afar, reflected on the sheer luck they all had, himself included, in having found a healer in a situation like this. Han approached, still catching his breath. Without wasting any time, Jun turned to him and asked what had happened below, particularly why the red tigers had suddenly appeared. Han, his voice still carrying traces of exhaustion and gratitude, explained that the location where Moon's grandmother's house had once stood was likely a territory belonging to the red tigers. They had managed to take one down, but another had soon appeared, proving that the area was far more dangerous than they had assumed. Hearing this, Jun processed the information carefully. It made sense. There was no reason to believe that only goblins would inhabit this region. And now that he thought about it, there hadn't been any goblins in this area at all. That meant the goblins had probably already invaded the nearby buildings. If that was the case, Moon's grandmother would not have been safe if she had remained inside. Ironically, the only reason she had survived was that she had unknowingly been within the red tiger's territory. Jun exhaled slowly, shaking his head. The sheer luck involved in this ordeal was extraordinary. Just then, another system notification appeared before him. Healer's performance is being evaluated. 73,121 has been deducted for the mission. The healer let out a relieved sigh upon realizing her task had been successfully completed. Seeing her reaction, Jun stepped forward and acknowledged her efforts, telling her she had done a great job. But she quickly waved off his praise and instead asked if she could finally return home. Before anyone could respond, a voice interrupted. Wait a moment. It was Fatty, who had finally reappeared after resting from the ordeal. Scratching the back of his head, he looked around awkwardly before addressing the group. I know this might not be the best time, but are you guys seriously planning on gathering in my apartment all the time? Jun turned his attention to Fatty and, for the first time, truly took in the number of people currently occupying the space. Realization dawned on him, and at that moment, everyone wore equally amused and sheepish expressions. With a small chuckle, Jun reassured him. There was no need to worry, he had already made arrangements. Unit 2901 was currently unoccupied. Electricity, water, and every other necessity for daily life would be provided, and they were free to live there. Upon hearing this, the group erupted in joy. Jun also called out to Dabin and informed her that units 21101 and 21102 were also unoccupied. He promised to ensure electricity was supplied to those units and asked her to notify the other survivors, letting them know they could use the bathrooms and showers in those apartments. Dabin and her brother exchanged glances before nodding, assuring him they would handle it. Jun then added that out of the 2 available units, Dabin and her brother were welcome to claim one for themselves. The unexpected offer left both of them stunned, their jaws practically dropping in disbelief. Jun remained composed and instructed them to inform the other survivors that they could take the remaining unit. After settling that matter, Jun shifted the conversation. He had a favor to ask. Dabin, still somewhat taken aback, encouraged him to go ahead. Without hesitation, Jun stated that he wanted her to become the messenger between himself and the rest of the survivors. Dabin paused, furrowing her brows in confusion. She repeated his request, asking if she had heard him correctly. Did he really mean messenger? Jun, completely serious, confirmed it. He then laid out the details of his plan. She was to inform everyone that whichever team managed to eliminate 100 goblins the fastest would be rewarded with an empty unit of their own. In addition to securing a place to live, the winning team would also receive essential supplies, unlimited electricity, running water, gas, and food. But there was more. Jun clarified that if the winning team agreed to take in 10 additional survivors, those individuals would also gain access to the same benefits. For a brief moment, the atmosphere in the room grew heavy with tension. The weight of his words settled over them, and everyone grasped the implications. As if anticipating their concerns, Jun added one final note. Dabin should inform them that the distribution of benefits might take longer depending on which floor their new residence was located. As he watches their reactions, Jun contemplates his next move. From this point forward, he realizes every decision will be like moving pieces in a strategic game of chess. Only those who prove their worth will receive the resources they need.